Hey everyone, welcome to the Raw Reset. I'm Amber, and if you're new here, I'm on a journey to lose 100 pounds utilizing the raw food lifestyle. Now, today I have a great treat in store for you guys. I'm going to do 3 different wrap recipes. Now, I did a survey on my channel, and Mexican was the #1 flavor, which is my #1 flavor too. So, I wanted to create some wraps that have some different flavor profiles for different Mexican meals. If you've watched my channel before, then you know that I love different flavors and I love creating new things based on stuff that I used to eat in my previous years. So today we're going to do 3 different wrap recipes, which are super easy, super simple, super flavorful. All right, so for our first wrap, our pineapple chili lime wrap, we're going to need a few things here. I juiced an entire pineapple. Now this is the pulp that's left over. Now you can try to blend a pineapple if you wanted to. Try this without juicing one, or if you don't have a juicer. I'm just not quite sure how that would turn out. So I'm recommending it this route. So we're going to utilize the pulp from 1 pineapple. We need some sea salt. We need some ground flax. This is golden ground flax. We need some chili powder. We need some cayenne pepper. We need some smoked paprika and some lime juice and some maple syrup. All right, so that'll be our recipe. It's super, super easy. We're going to start by adding everything into the pineapple. Now this recipe is going to make probably around 2 wraps. I didn't want to make a ton of wraps because I'm making 3 different recipes here. So if you wanted to make more than 2, like if you want to make 4, you would just double this recipe. So we need 2 tablespoons of ground flax. We need 1 tablespoon of lime juice. So this is about a half a lime measured out. I'm just going to juice half a lime and put it in there. And that should be about a tablespoon. All right, we're going to need a pinch of salt, or a 1/4 tablespoon. I'll measure this out here. 1/4 tablespoon. Half a teaspoon of chili powder. One-fourth teaspoon of smoked paprika. A pinch of cayenne. Now you can add more if you want it more spicy. I'm just going to do a pinch. I'm not into overly spicy. And then we're going to do a teaspoon of maple syrup. All right, and then we're going to mix this together. Super easy, you guys, super flavorful. Something unique to eat with your Mexican food dishes. So mix it nice and thoroughly together so all the seasonings are combined. All right, and we're gonna let this sit for 5 minutes so the flax can settle and it actually helps it stick together better. It will thicken a little bit. So we're gonna leave this for about 5 minutes to sit. Okay guys, it's been about 5 minutes, so I'm going to cut this in half and I'm gonna put one on one sheet and then one on another sheet. And again, if you wanted to double this, you could. If you wanted to make 4 wraps, you can. I'm making quite a few wraps today, so sticking with 2. All right, we're just going to take our little knife, offset spatula, I mean, and we're going to get it to the thinness of how we want it, but we want it obviously not too thick. It's not going to be the prettiest thing you've ever seen, but it's going to work. So as you can see, I'm just kind of going to the edges of the dehydrator silicone sheet. And if you don't have these, I'll link them down below so you can get some if you have the same kind of dehydrator as I do, which is the Corsi, which I'll link that as well. They work great for that dehydrator. Okay, so I'm going to just try to make this prettier. Okay, 1 down, 1 to go. Okay, that looks great. We're going to stick this in the dehydrator for 115 degrees. We're going to do 4 hours, flip it. I would honestly check it at 2 just to see what the texture is looking like. You don't want it hard and crunchy. You want it soft and pliable, obviously, to make a wrap. Okay, guys, I'm going to go over all the ingredients for our next wrap, which is a jalapeno lime street wrap. So first things first, you're going to need half of a zucchini. Now I've peeled the zucchini. You're going to need 1/4 of an avocado, ripe avocado. You're going to need some flax seed. You're going to need half of a small jalapeno. You're going to need some lime juice, so a lime, some garlic powder, some garlic powder, some onion powder, some smoked paprika, some salt, and that should do it. All right, so first things first, in our blender, we're going to add the zucchini. We're going to add 1/4 of the avocado. We're going to add the lime juice, which we need 1.5 tablespoons of lime juice, which was a whole lime for this one because there's not much juice in here. And some salt, a pinch of salt. All right, we're going to blend this until it's smooth. All right, that looks good. All right, we're going to pour this into the bowl or scoop it in. All right, and then we're going to add our seasonings. We need 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. We need 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. We need 1/4 cup of flax. And I apologize, that was 1/3 cup of flax. All right, we need 1/4 teaspoon of smoked paprika. All right, so I've diced up 1/2 of a jalapeno. So I'm going to add that in. Now you can add the jalapeno to the mix if you wanted to just incorporate the jalapeno flavor. I want to incorporate the jalapeno as more of a textural difference. All right, so we're going to mix this all around. Make sure it's well incorporated. Okay, and then the same thing as last time with the pineapple wraps, we're going to let this sit for about 5 minutes. All right, so we'll let that thicken up here. See you in 5. All right, guys, I'm going to get this one laid out. Sorry, guys, it wasn't the recipe for 2 wraps. This was recipe for 1 wrap. So if you want to make more than 1 wrap, obviously increase the recipe. And sometimes we only want 1 wrap, so that's fine. Okay, into the dehydrator we go. For 115 for 4 hours. We're going to check it, flip it, and dehydrate it for another 2 hours and check on it and maybe go a little longer if you need it. You want it flexible and bendable and easy to use. So now on to our next wrap, which is our final wrap, a smoky chipotle taco wrap. Okay guys, let's get started on our smoky chipotle taco wrap. So we're gonna need 3, I have these Campari tomatoes. So I have 3 small tomatoes, or you can use probably 1.5 Romas for this recipe, but this is gonna make 2 wraps. So we need a carrot, about a half a carrot. This is a pretty large carrot. We need some flax, golden flax. We need some lime juice. We need some smoked paprika. We need some cumin. We need some chili powder, some garlic powder, some onion powder, and some sea salt. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the tomatoes and the carrot and the lime juice to the blender. And the lime juice, we need 1.5 teaspoons. So I'm just going to do a half. That's probably a little bit more than what we need, but that's okay. So we're going to blend this until it's smooth. All right, that looks good. So we're going to pour this in a bowl. Should have actually left that on there. Okay, we're going to add our spices and our flax now. So we need a 1/4 cup of flax. We need a 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika. We need a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin. We need a 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder. We need a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. We need a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. And we need a pinch of salt. All right, we're going to mix this all together now. And this needs a little bit more flax. I thought it called for a 1/3 cup. So yes, I'm going to change this to a 1/3 cup of flax instead of a 1/4 cup. I think I got my 2 recipes mixed up. So this was a 1/3 cup of flax. Okay, we're going to let this hang out again for 5 minutes so that the flax can absorb some of that liquid and bind it together a little bit better and get a little thicker. So we're going to let this sit for 5 minutes and I'll be back to lay it out. All right, guys, it's been about 5 minutes. And so we have our batter here, our wrap batter. So I'm going to split this in half and put one on one. And then one on the other. And then just do the same thing with them as the other 3 that I did. Definitely not perfect. We want it to be sticking together. All right, that looks good. On to the next. Okay, we got our wraps ready to go. So I'm going to put these in the dehydrator for 115 along with the other ones for 4 hours. We don't want them too crusty. We want them pliable and still able to use as a wrap, obviously. So in the dehydrator they go. All right, guys, all of our wraps are finished. And as you can see, the texture is very pliable. These tomato ones got a little more crunchier. They were super, super thin, but still usable. And our pineapple one turned out great. And there you have it. 3 different types of raw Mexican vibe wraps. Perfect, yummy, ready for Mexican fillings. Now I'm going to store these between parchment paper in a Ziploc bag, and I'm going to put them in the fridge, and they should keep for about 4 days. And if you're new to the raw vegan lifestyle or curious about how to get started, I've put a link to my free raw reset beginner guide down below in the comments. I've also put a link to Jillian Berry's Club Raw, which is a raw vegan club, and it's full of amazing people, tons of support, accountability, tons of recipes, live calls, access to Jillian Berry herself. So I highly suggest it. I'm in there, and also tons and tons of amazing, amazing people. So I highly suggest that if you're looking for accountability, support, or struggling on this lifestyle. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. God bless.